I brought my sister over to get her wheel bolts replaced, and we were talking, and I was just like, well, if you need any help, I'm pretty bored, so let me know.
At the time I was pretty slammed. It's a little apprehensive at first, but it's been good. It's worked out good. So let's see, Ford Windsor 351.
Cummins Power 01, we are answering your question.
Oh.
But we acknowledge your question. Okay.
Cool. So I've got an 07 Chrysler Town & Country Touring 3.8. It calls for a Hote antifreeze. What is the importance of sticking with this type? Factory stuff was red in color, but I recently did a drain, flush, and fill, and the Xerox Geo5 I bought was clear. Not really liking this, but it is what it is. I would just like an explanation of the different blends that the different manufacturers call for. Thanks. You're welcome. I'm going to say there's different kinds of antifreeze that are specific to vehicles because some of the manufacturers do a coating, like I know GM did with the Dex Cool. They coat everything. They basically fill all the coolant jacket and the engine with a certain coating, and then help it to not react with the aluminum and last longer, and basically make it through the warranty period. As far as the Hote antifreeze, I don't know all the details on that, but once people left ethylene glycol, the green antifreeze, I'm tired. I'm trying to remember all the Hote stuff that I've learned. I know that Hote's supposed to be a lot more concentrated too. I'm just floundering here. You want to answer?
I have no idea. I just think they do it to make you spend more money. My parents had a 99 Town Country, but it just had the green stuff in it. So
it's basically to make it last through the warranty period. And the reason why you don't mix it is like with the Dex Cool. If you put ethylene glycol in with that, it basically would strip that coating, and it gets stuck in your thermostat, and get stuck in your bypass hoses, and the pressurized tank stuff. It just makes a mess. I mean, it just basically looks like somebody took a bunch of glue film and put it in the cooling system. Bad news.
okay, Catman 911. Hi, Spanky. Hello. I have a 2006 Chevy Silverado 4x4 with a 4.8-liter V8 engine. When the truck runs for a while, the power steering pump makes a squeaking noise. I can take the cap off the reservoir and it will stop making the noise. After I drive it a ways, it starts the noise again until I take off the cap. Thanks, Mike. That's just bizarre.
It's usually sediment in the reservoir will cause that. You see that a lot on Ford Windsor 351's vehicle at Town & Country Touring. They've got that remote mounted reservoir, and basically you'll have a filter or something that tries to catch the stuff and trap it out of the reservoir. And they'll get blocked full of junk, and basically it'll create turbulence and introduce air, frothing.
That's on the power steering reservoir.
Like I say, you see that a lot on that 07, like 05 to 07 kind of countries. I need to do a video on the antifreeze thing. That's driving me crazy when I don't know something. It's how you come to know more, is that you get stumped on stuff.
I'll write it down.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on the board right now.
Okay, so thank you for Ford Windsor 351. You've inspired Brian.
I know that I've been trained on that and I've read up on it and everything, but it's been so long. You always hear about that stuff when it's brand new and it comes out, and then you just forget over time.
There's Rage 73. H. Yay, welcome back. Happy to see you. Thanks. Brian's new truck come with a fuel cap.
No, and yes. It came with like a junkyard cap, you know, like, and what I mean by that is when you buy an engine from a wrecking yard, they'll have a bunch of these disposable plastic caps that keep all the water out when they pressure wash them or do their thing. It had one of those to keep contaminants out during shipping, which is just crazy to me. Maybe on a train car it'll be facing backwards and that could open the fuel door. But the fuel door has like a little, almost like in your door jamb, you know, like the door jamb seal, it's got something like that. And they say you don't need a cap. I think that that's stupid, so I just keep the same cap that came with it for shipping. But it doesn't have an official cap. You got to pay $35 on eBay and get like a little green magnetic one that sticks on or something.
Really?
Yeah, it's stupid.
So when I read this, I was like, of course it came with a cap.
No.
And then I was like, well, wait, if he's asking, then it probably did.
Gosh. Yeah, that was a dumb thing. I think it's convenient to just not have to have one and to have that door jamb seal on your fuel door, but it's not effective, you know, because stuff still gets in there.
Yeah, I would want a cap.
Yeah, I'm just too cheap to pay $35 for anodized aluminum, you know, fancy whatever. I just use the plastic one that came with it.
Okay, what was your first car and what was your favorite vehicle you've ever owned?
Let's see, I think I expressed my feelings on that. That's crap. My first car, shoot, what was it? I think my first car was a Ford Ranger. It was a four-wheel drive, jacked up Ford Ranger. Yeah. I had a blue one before that, but I technically didn't have my driver's license and it wasn't technically mine. My parents, I went through a whole bunch of cars because my dad provided ones. That's a kind of a funky question because my dad wouldn't let me have a car because that was his way of keeping me under his thumb. I was a way good kid. You know, I got awesome grades and did everything I was supposed to do, but I was just kind of my dad's prerogative. He just wouldn't let me do it. So when I finally did get my first car, it was actually a 92 Dodge Dakota, full drive V8.
How old were you when you got it?
When I got my first car, I was 21. Like, I was out of the house.
I was like 19 when I got mine, so
Yeah.
I was long out of the house. So.
I've been out of the house for 2 years, but didn't have to have a car yet. So.
My first car was a 1988 Mazda 323 hatchback, and it was gold, and I loved that car because I could almost drift with it. I didn't know it was called drifting then, but I could drift with it.
That was rear-wheel drive.
No, well, when I really go, it would just kind of hop the back end of the like when I would whip around a corner.
So light.
Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. But my favorite vehicle I ever owned was my 93 Ford Explorer. And until I got my 2010 Corolla, that was the newest vehicle I ever owned too. So I liked it because I could go four-wheeling and it was fun. And that's what I learned on in school, so I replaced the head gaskets and all that kind of stuff. It was like except the transmission, it was a stick too. Transmission went out driving to Michigan, and that's where it lives now, is in Michigan. But the guy that I sold it to, he paid me the scrap cost of it because we were going to have to tow it over to get scrapped, and it was at his house. So he just paid me the $300, and I gave him a list of everything I fixed. So he said he was going to replace the transmission, but I wasn't allowed to put another $1,500 into the new transmission. But it would have been pretty much brand new at that point. So.
My favorite car that I've ever owned is kind of a toss-up, and everybody's going to throw rocks at me for saying this, but that Ford Ranger was one of my favorites, the first one that I had that wasn't technically mine. And I rallied that thing. I used to hill climb with it, do all kinds of off-roading. If there was a substitute teacher in high school, and I knew I could get out, because they don't give you anything that you have to do. I mean, I got good grades. I never had homework because I'd always do it during lunch or between class. I didn't apply myself, basically. I could have done a lot better, but basically that Ford Ranger, because of the rally factor, it wasn't mine. Oh, man. Or the Ford Aspire. I had a 95 Ford Aspire that I rallied pretty hard. I bought it for $500. I had a Honda Civic. It got stolen, so I just needed a quick and dirty replacement car. So I made that thing really reliable, and I take it out to the desert and just fly through the desert. You know, even in the winter. People wouldn't think that it snows in the desert, but it does. You go out in the desert in the snow and just it's so light that no matter what you hit, it would deflect up and over it. I love that car. I mean, I've had some cool cars, but those two are probably my favorite. The most endearing to me was probably those two, just because of the freedom, flying, fun factor. I guess, and they were both Fords. Somebody's ragging on me because they said I didn't like Fords. It was in a Ford Taurus video. I don't like Ford Tauruses. They're a disposable car. People just try to milk them, you know, after they're sold. But anyway.
I'm a big fan of Ford trucks, and because I mean, since I pretty much tore mine apart, then you know I know the engines really well, and Ford didn't get bailed out, so that means something to me. Maybe it shouldn't, but it does. Wow,
Pet Rock's Garage has a pile of questions. Not a lot of white space there, is there?
No, let's take a little.
He did the little dashes for each one. How much? Oh, these are good questions too. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
A woodchuck would chuck as much wood as a woodchuck could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood.
Touché. Why did they call it after dark when it's really after light? That is a good question. Maybe it's after dark begins. What is the hokey poke? What if the hokey pokey really is what it's all about?
I am working way too hard.
How long is a piece of string? And it is the length between the cut ends of said string. At a movie theater, which armrest is yours? Both of them. Some bigger. That's okay.
For me, it depends. Well, when I was dating, it would depend on if I liked my date or not, and which side he was on. So if I liked him, I leaned towards him. If I didn't, I kind of leaned away a little bit.
Here's a good question. Why do they call it a pair of pants but only one bra instead of a pair of bras? Thinking, man. Why did London Bridge ever fall down? I have no idea.
Well, I don't know if it fell. I don't think it fell down, but they did take it down, and it's in Arizona now.
Really?
Yeah, someone bought it, and it's in somewhere near Arizona.
Wow.
I have to look it up.
So
That's the last I heard of it.
interesting. Why do superheroes wear their underwear on the outside of their clothes? Because they can. Nobody's gonna mess with them because they're a superhero. Sponsorship? I don't know. So, what was the best thing before sliced bread? Regular bread, actually.
Yeah, because it was home baked, and there's nothing better than home baked bread.
Are rhinos overweight unicorns? Yes, they are. Yeah, apparently they don't like fire. Watch crocodile Dundee.
No, well, not in years. I just remember, that's not a knife. This is a knife.
That's a knife. Would you like fries with that? No, I don't like fries.
I do. I'll take fries. And I'm assuming you mean with my shake.
Good answer, good answer. So we've got a couple more questions to add to that while we're on this.
We do?
Yes. Okay. When snow melts, where does the white go?
Where does the white go? Well, it's not really white, is it?
Snow's white. It's snow white.
That's just what it looks like when the light refracts off of it.
That's right. It refract and fricka. Back to Fraggle Rock.
Okay, what else do you got?
I think that's it for now. That's probably gone on long enough.
By the way, congrats on finding that spring. Thank you. I thought of you in that spring when a tiny C-clip flew across my garage last week and landed in the kitty litter. Chalked that clip up to a loss. Good call. Jeff Tresider.
Glad you're back.
Glad you're back. Misty Spanky. Spanky withdrawal. No bueno. Thank you. That's very nice. Carabello 125. Thanks for checking back in. I've had to resort to watching Russian car crash videos while you were out. I did that a lot too.
Things are addictive. I actually just ordered a dash cam. And then
I want one.
I'll have to see how mine turns out. This is my third dash cam.
Yeah.
I haven't dared to do a product review video on the other two that I've had because they're not great.
Yeah.
So this new one's supposed to be pretty awesome.
There's always a lull in new vids over the holidays anyway. I'm just getting over the flu too. Get your hubbies, and saline nasal spray works great for the sinus infections. I don't think they actually got the sinus infections, but he's all better now, so, but thank you. Side tracker. Hey Spanky, how did you get into mechanics, and same for Brian, and how did you two meet and start working together? Okay, we've
already answered that one.
Pretty much covered that, but thank you for taking the time to type it out. Seriously. And mapped car. I have a couple of questions, but first, Happy New Year. Thank you. Glad you guys are better. How do you feel about Chrysler/Fiat's new multi-air valve train? Yeah. How do you feel? I can't read. Here, how about you start reading? Right there.
All right. How do we feel about this new valve train? Do you feel that we will be seeing more issues than a traditional overhead valve, overhead cam setup? And another thing that has boggled me for a while, how do auto manufacturers decide? Well, let's answer the first one first. Whenever I see an auto manufacturer do something new like that and their name isn't Honda, I'm a little nervous. Honda's really careful when they do new technologies, but I'm kind of excited about it. As you know, I've got a new Ram truck. It's a Ram Fiat as opposed to a Daimler Chrysler. It's a Fiat Chrysler. Yeah. I didn't like the idea of it being a Fiat at first, but as I've owned it, and especially as I've been doing things with the wiring, I like it way better. Fiat really has a lot of good things going on in terms of new technologies. So I don't know a whole lot about the new multi-air valve train, but I'm excited about it. I think it'll probably be a good thing. Okay, and for the next one, I'm really excited to see what happens with that Swedish group with their electromagnetic valves.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
Makes instead of having a cylinder head like half the size of the engine, it's way smaller. Oh, I mean, it's just way small because you don't have to have even a camshaft. Wow. So I think it's along the same lines. I'm really excited about that. It's really cool stuff. Okay, so the other question was, how do auto manufacturers decide what amp alternator to put in a vehicle? Also, could someday you do a video on calculating Ohm's law in series parallel circuits? I'm still, and I hope you're okay because it's like like
I'm still. I'm done typing. I'm just still.
I'm still okay. Just holding still. I just thought that maybe while he was inscribing on the cave wall that the monster got him, or the killer rabbit. I'm still okay. As far as calculating how many amps you need, as far as Ohm's law, it's just V over IR, voltage over resistance times current. So you just have to figure out what kind of draw you're going to have. Usually, auto manufacturers, a lot of everything's been done already. They don't have to reinvent the wheel over and over again. But you just have to look at what the demand's going to be. An ambulance vehicle is going to have a lot more draw because of all of the electronics that are going to be on board. Something that's going to have a lot of, and you can add alternators, or oftentimes you can even use a higher amp alternator. They'll bolt up the same way. The manufacturers will even sell some budget that way in terms of being able to swap them out or make them compatible, and that way they don't have to build two different brackets. And that's not always the case, but oftentimes it is.
You have some experience with that.
Yep.
A Screamin' Eagle, who I've chatted with, and he's not stealing anyone's valor. He's not former military. I asked because I knew a bunch of Airborne 101 guys, and they're the Screaming Eagles. Anyway, welcome back, Spanky. Thanks. Shoot, I just thought you were spending time with family over the holidays. Ask for questions. How did you and Brian become friends, and how long have you known each other?
And there's more.
Wait, there's more. Sorry. Oh, there's a lot more.
A lot more.
Sorry. Okay. Let's just answer them as we go, I guess.
He's asking how we met. We've answered that one already.
We became friends working together, though.
Yeah.
But how long have we known each other? Like
4 years? 5?
No,
how long have you been in that?
I haven't. I moved in that house not quite 4 years ago.
So, not quite 4 years.
I'd say not quite, around 3.
I'd say 2 years, 4 years, just depends. You're always going to Alaska though. You know, I'd met you, I think, but.
No, I haven't been to Alaska since I've been here.
I don't know. Apparently not.
We almost met in '96, where we could have actually, because when you were working at the grocery store, and I came out to visit with my family, and the people we stayed with lived right next to the grocery store, and I was bored, and I went wandering around the grocery store.
Well, if you'd have stolen something, we probably would have met. I probably would have caught you.
Probably would have.
So that's what I was doing back then, is doing security there. I was in the dairy with binoculars, literally.
Actually, it's 95.
95.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have been there.
Yeah. Yeah, you said one time you were there pretty much every night, so.
Yeah, it's always catching middle-aged ladies stealing nail polish, and cosmetics, and personal care stuff.
That's sad. What made you interested in pursuing mechanics? Self-reliance. Are you still Brian's apprentice?
Can you say apprentice?
No.
There's a better question for you.
Not after 10 o'clock at night, I cannot.
Oh, heavens no.
Meaning, are you still working with him as he teaches you? Sometimes there's projects and he's gracious and lets me use his garage, and then it pretty much ends up happening.
I'd say, yeah, you're still learning, training and stuff.
I'm definitely still.
But she's off on her own and up and running, and so kind of in between. I don't know, when is an apprentice no longer your apprentice? When they start being independent?
I become the master.
When you become the... You're going to have some kind of mechanics duel in the future. I'm going to have to like get some like brush-in gray stuff, you know. Some kind of anime episode.
Be awesome.
Okay, chicken or the egg? It was the chicken. How and when did you decide to go it alone from your garage? I've always kind of done it on the side, you know, even when I was in high school, I'd do it on the side. So, it's kind of a moral thing. I was working at the Mazda dealership, and the guy who I was working for, even before he went to prison, boy, I'm just tired.
Wait, who
I'm crashing. The guy that was running the Mazda dealership that I was at.
Okay.
So there's just a bunch of moral stuff. It's always asking me to do things that I didn't think were right or appropriate or whatever. And so I was in charge of the used cars that came through. And so they'd have me bandage or cover things up that shouldn't be covered up. And I was just like, you know what? I'm making more money when I get home at night than I am during this. And I was only working at the dealership at that point because my wife was adamant that I have a job, and so, you know, it worked better to have me just not be there anymore. I went in to give my 2 weeks notice, you know, after a particular, you know, thing had been going on for a while, and I sat down with the guy, and he's like, well, what can we do to keep you here? And I said, be honest. Have a soul, you know. And so I've always just, you know, in terms of my code of ethics, I just like to have things be on the up and up. I don't want to screw anybody else over. I want to help people out. So, so I just, you know, I quit my job. I always had work lined up and backed up, and so I just kind of stayed that way. And then started doing the YouTube thing, and then that kind of help support that. So, see, what were you doing before you decide to do it on your own? I guess I answered that. I worked at the Mazda dealer before I worked at a family garage, and before that I worked at another, doing mobile auto repair on my own, and before that I worked at a different family garage. See, what does Mrs. Bryan think of you running a business out of the family home? I don't know.
She doesn't like it.
She doesn't like it, exactly. I don't know. If there's any kind of a traffic backup or whatever, you know, and mostly what I just do now is videos. I mean, I don't do like a full-scale auto repair shop from home. It's mostly just having cars that have something to film or to do. And so it's not too bad, but I don't know, if somebody's in the driveway and she's coming or going, she gets real pissy about it. And you say that she doesn't like it. What do you pick up on? I try to. Anytime she complains or whines about something that I know is good for the family, I kind of shut it out. I just kind of turn my brain off and just, because otherwise I'd be like, you know, these people are here to, you know, bringing money to help pay for all your shoes and boots and stuff. So frickin' suck it up, Buttercup.
But no, one thing that she said is that, you know, the random delivery guys coming and, because there's not a fence in the backyard.
If there's a new, the shop's detached from the house, and people know to come to the studio, shop, garage, whatever you want to call it. So, but there'll be somebody that's new, and they'll come and ring the doorbell and wake up the baby if they're napping or something. You know, we don't get too many surprises. You know, people are really, I'm really careful. I do everything in my power to make sure that people come to the side door here and not to the house. So that solves a lot of the trouble. But anyway, let's see, what were you doing before you decided to go on your own? What is Mrs. Briansmobile? Are there any plans for you to expand, or are you quite happy with the setup you have? I'm always open to opportunities and options. You know, I've thought a lot about expanding and creating a chain of, actually, when I was studying business at university, I came up with a business plan, all this kind of stuff to expand and have a whole bunch of different shops and everything. But something just holds me back from doing that. One of the things was the 2000, let's see, when did I graduate? I think I graduated around the same time that the economy crashed, and all the local shops were going out of business left and right, and I was like, oh, perfect timing. So I just didn't do it.
Well, now it's really difficult to run a small business too, so that doesn't help anything.
Here's an idea for a video on chickens. This is probably for Spanky. Last year there was over 300 cases of salmonella from backyard chickens. That's not too bad. You know, it doesn't say what the geographic is, but you can inform your viewers precautions to keep everyone healthy. Here's my source, and as an NBC News thing, you guys can check that out. Keep it out. It's not really. Let's see. Where's the question in there? Here's an idea for a video. What do we do? Let's turn this into a question. Okay. What do we do to make sure we don't get salmonella? Lots of hand washing. Yeah. Lots of keeping things separate and washing eggs thoroughly.
Wash eggs, and I collect my eggs, I put them in a basket, and then I bring them in the house, and then I wash the eggs, and then I put them in a carton and put them in the fridge.
Just any basket or a designated eggs basket? There you go.
So then in the summer, it's a bigger designated eggs basket. Well, it's lined with paper stuff, and really once the chicken poop is dry, it's not so much of a problem, according to my dad, who my dad's an entomologist. He's a pretty smart guy, but he doesn't worry about chicken poop once it's dry. Not that he doesn't have chickens, so he would still clean his eggs, but yeah, you just have to be smart. But that's a good
Probably
idea.
A lot with kids too. You know, kids mishandling chickens or not washing hands or stuff like that.
Just lick the eggs. I have a problem keeping my kids from touching the eggs when they're dirty. Something about it just invites them, their curiosity.
It's Easter. It's Easter eggs.
Yeah, well, I do have Easter eggers, so.
There you go.